How many people just died? Well, stay tuned to find out how to bomb successfully on this crazy Magicka Nightblade. Hey, it's Dan, and welcome back to Unified Gaming. In today's video guys, we'll be featuring Eth0s Magicka Nightblade build, which is just crazy. This is a bomber that has been min-maxed, it's been optimized like heavily. I've also reviewed it as well and made a few tweaks, but this is just silly damage, as you can see in the footage. All of the gameplay has been provided by Eth0s himself, which is really appreciated, so do check out his channel. There is a link in the description and I will refer to it a few times. So as I said, check out his channel, he's got loads and loads of footage, just really give him some love. As for the build, we're going to go through like with all of my videos, but before we do that, if you haven't guessed it, this channel is all about helping you unleash your potential with builds, guides and gameplay. So why not start improving today by subscribing and clicking on the bell so you don't miss anything. Now let's jump straight in. As for that race, a high elf, in all honesty, is the highest damage you can get. You get access to max Magicka, which increases your damage and extra spell damage. A dark elf is a really good option, and Eth0s uses a dark elf himself because you get extra stamina and the damage is nearly identical. But if you want to really push that damage, high elf is slightly higher. Alternatively, a Khajiit could work. They're not as good, but because of how much damage you get anyway, it's still viable. And a Breton can be made to work, but again, they're not the best damage. We then pair this with the Shadow Mundus. The Shadow gives us a bonus crit damage. Even with all of the changes with just extra kind of critical resistance, the Shadow still comes out top because it's just such a big damage increase. So highly recommend running this. It's better than any other Mundus from my testing and the Eth0s testing himself. As for kind of being a vampire or a mortal, a vampire is needed in all honesty, and you have two options. Eth0s, he uses a stage 1 vampire, and I prefer stage 2. The stage 2 gives you slightly more damage, but you have slightly harder sustain. So if you find your sustain a bit too hard on a stage 2 vampire, drop to stage 1. But stage 1 is a minimum you need, because we use some vampire skills and we also use the sneak passive. As for the consumables, we use Bewitched Sugar Skulls. This is really good. It's health, Magicka and stamina. You could go and obviously change this for like just normal tri-stat food. Alternatively, Ghastly Eyeball is a drink, it's a blue food, it's really good, it's max Magicka and Magicka regen, so that will give you even more damage, you're just a bit squishier. So those are those options for food. Potion wise, you have two options. You really want to have anything with spell power on it, so it could be Alliance War potions, it could be Crown potions, it could be Craft potions, but that's what you use to buff up in order to get like extra damage to kill people. But between fights, you might want to have tri-stat potions just slotted, so that way you can keep your resources a little bit higher, so that way it's easier to bomb if you need it. I'm now going to go through the skills, which in all honesty, you need to get this right, otherwise your damage will be a lot less. It's kind of your typical bomber layout, just a few slight nuances that you need to pay attention to, okay? We're using Sap Essence, which is basically the spammable. It does give us major sorcery, but we obviously need the major sorcery on the bomb, so we have to use potions, as I've said already. We then use Degeneration, which is really good. This basically is here because it gives us extra max Magicka. We don't actually cast this, so any mage guild skill will work. This is just easier to get because you need Inner Light as well. So level 4 is absolutely fine on this. Getting to 10 gives you a bit more damage, but it's not massive. We then use Inner Light for max Magicka, and sort of spell crit is mainly for the max Magicka boost. We then have Camouflage Hunter. We never ever cast this, okay? Like, don't cast this. This is only here for the Minor Berserk. When we attack from somebody's flank, so behind them basically, we get bonus damage, and that 8% damage is also applied on the initial hit too. So as long as we kind of attack a big group of people, this will always proc. It's very rare not to, and we'll get bonus damage. So this is really good to have. We then have a choice of what goes here. You need to have a skill from the Assassination skill line. It could be this, any of these skills are absolutely fine, but we need it for the Hemorrhage passive. This is a 10% damage increase, which is really good. That can also be an ultimate, but we need Soul Tether, so don't do that. But just so you're aware, okay? A few people get that mixed up. Any of these skills, Reaper's Mark personally is the best because it's free to use. You can also use it after the bomb on somebody low health and get Major Berserk, which is awesome, so your follow-up damage is even higher. But as I said, you don't actually have to cast this, it's like a passive damage increase. And then for the ultimate, we're using Eth0s, which this goes up to like 24 or 25k tooltips, which is crazy. And it hits really hard with crits because we've got like 113% crit damage or something silly like that. So yeah, we hit really, really hard with this setup. And above all, this also heals you after the bomb. So when we get low health from using the vampire skills, this gives us a nice heal to recover. As for the back bar, you need to get Accelerate for the minor force. You can then choose Channel Deceleration, which will have a cast time, but it gives you a really long movement speed buff, which is really nice. So that's a good option there. I prefer that personally, but Race Against Time is also nice because you don't get snared, and that lets you get into groups with people having like cow drops on the floor and stuff, which is really helpful. So this is like personal preference, but you need one of these for the minor force, which again is another 10% damage increase, which is really, really important. We then have Stated Fury, and again there's two choices there. Stated Fury, in all honesty, gives us enough damage to kill multiple people without any real challenge, and it also heals us for the damage taken. So this means that it makes bombing a little bit easier. We can cast Proxy there, put this on, and when we get into the bomb location, we do the bomb, this turns off, and then this gives us a nice heal. We get a heal from Eth0s, we then get heals from Sap Essence spam, so you go back to full health really quickly, which means you're not easy to kill, which is really good. Using the other morph, it does give you more damage, yes, you get more burst, yes, but you can die easier, so I'd recommend this morph over the other one, but if you get really experienced, the other one is better damage. We then use Proximity Detonation, this goes up to about 10 to 12k tooltips, and it increases the more people there are. I've been testing and I found that actually by tweaking the setup, we've been able to bomb somebody, like one person by themselves, from full health to 0 on a single target with just a typical bomb because of the damage we have. So the more people there are, the easier it gets, which is awesome. So yeah, the damage is crazy on this build. We then have Shadowy Disguise, which is really important as we have to cast it before we do our bomb. If we don't cast it, we don't get the guaranteed crit. And the real trick with being a bomber is trying to land Eth0s before Proxy Det, because Eth0s actually hits harder than Proxy Det does. And if you get really good, you can actually land them at the same time and they will both crit, which is really, really powerful. But it does take some sort of time in. I find when their icon's about 1 second left on the buff tracker, you then cast Cloak, Swap Bar, Eth0s, and then it will all go off at once and you'll murder everybody. It's really, really cool. And then on this bar, you have two options, okay? If you're in combat, Concealed Weapon. So when you go to bomb somebody, this is really good because it's an extra movement speed, letting you close the gap a bit easier. So we have that, 25% there, plus this, which is 30%, so we can sneak really quickly to the group and bomb them fast. If you're not in combat though, what I would recommend doing is go into the Vampire skill line, which we are a vampire as I've said already, and get Accelerate and Drain. This just gives us extra ultimate, which means we can get more damage as we use Balor. It's the best bomb in monster set. So this is really good to swap for Channel Deceleration when you're kind of between fights. If you're trying to get some sort of ultimate up, use this, light attack. You can reset your ultimate pretty quick with this. Equally, with Temporal Guard, if you're in combat, this gives you a bit more damage mitigation. But if you want to reset your ultimate faster, you could actually swap this for an assassination skill called Soul Harvest. And what this will do is when you kill people, you get extra ultimate back. It's 10 ultimate per kill. This applies to people, NPCs, animals, you name it. So this is really, really good. And if you bomb it in the Imperial City, which I would recommend doing, it's really fun. In the Fighters Guild passives, there's a passive called Banish the Wicked, which is 9 ultimate. So if you have this, plus this, you get 19 ultimate for just killing any Daedra in there, and there's obviously they're everywhere. So you can reset your ultimate really, really fast. Chuck on this as well, and you get the idea, it goes up stupidly quick. So those are the skills. In all honesty, leave them as they are the best. If you were to make any changes to make it easier to play though, I would recommend putting Cloak on the front bar and dropping Degeneration. It's a slight damage boost, but it's not massive, and the extra ease of play to be able to cloak to the target does make it a bit easier. Equally, you could also run Shade and put Shadow Image on the back bar then. So Shadow Image goes here on LB, and you have Cloak on the front bar. So again, it just makes it easier to play, and you've got a good get out of jail button should things go wrong. So those are the options for skills and what I'd recommend. As I've said already, a massive thank you to Eth0s for obviously letting us use his gameplay and featuring his build. Do check his channel out. He makes loads of ESO content, especially bombers and stuff, which is really, really cool. He's got way more experience than I have, so yeah, check out his channel. There's a link in the description. Now, the part that everybody skips to is always the gear, and this is slightly different to normal. I'm going to show you 3 setups and tell you the pros and cons for each setup pretty quickly so you can decide what you need for your playstyle. All of them work absolutely fine, but they have slight benefits which actually can give you kind of advantages if you go for a certain type of bombing. So with a bomb, you need to have a damage set like Spinners, New Moon, or Mechanical Acuity. Any of those are really good. You then pair this with Balorg and with Fisher's Death. It's pretty simple. The kind of way we set this up is we have 3 Fisher's Death jewelry, all infused spell damage. You can buy this currently in Mid-Year Mayhem, and you can get rings next weekend. So this is really good because you can get these for AP. They're 500k each, so do pick them up. It'll save you loads and loads of gold. Okay? You have 3 jewelry and you have 2 body pieces. It doesn't matter what pieces you have, in all honesty. I went with hands and feet because they're cheap to buy, in all honesty. You then have Balorg as your monster set. It should be heavy and medium for our Undaunted passives, slightly more max Magicka, slightly more damage. You want these to be divines like all of the armor and max Magicka. We are pushing damage as high as we can get it. And what's really nice about Balorg is that as we use our ultimate, we get bonus spell damage and bonus penetration, which means we hit really hard. So the idea is that the higher the ultimate is, up to 500, the more damage we get on the bomb, which is actually really, really noticeable. So definitely get this monster set. It's the best you can get. Like, there's no better one. If for some reason you don't have this DLC, you could run anything like 1 Valken Scoria and 1 spell damage, so like Kina or Balorg. You can buy it from a chest. So those are the options if you don't have this DLC, but it's really, really important to get it if you can. By doing it this way, we get Fisher's Death always active, which means we can then front bar the damage set. So we front bar Spinners, which gives you the most damage overall. Eth0s currently uses Mechanical Acuity because this is really good for kind of follow-up damage. So if you're kind of somebody who knows you won't be able to nuke the big group at once, Mechanical Acuity is the best set then, because it has the highest kind of bonus damage after the initial bomb. If your plan is to go in and kill them instantly without them actually staying alive, Spinners is the best kind of set for that. New Moon is also incredibly close, like incredibly close. So it doesn't matter if you use New Moon or Spinners, they're really, really close. But these will give you the highest initial hits, but Mechanical Acuity gives you the best follow-up. As for kind of the traits, you want to have Nirnhound on the sword, main hand. That's really important. The main hand should be Nirnhound, and the offhand should be sharpened. As for the glyphs, it doesn't matter what you use, in all honesty. 1 shock and 1 fire is the most damage. Oblivion's fine as well, so it doesn't matter what you use. But by doing it this way, you get Spinners 1, 2 on the front bar, then you get 3, 4, and 5. You will find that our Spinners is now 5 active. We go to the back bar, our Spinners is now 3 active. This means we can run any back bar weapon. So I like to use the Potente's Restoration Staff, decisive for more ultimate generation between the bombs, but it's also damage reduction too, which is always nice. You could run, the Maelstrom Restoration Staff or the Master's Restoration Staff and slot one of those skills. So there's a few options there. As for the glyph, whatever you like, in all honesty, it makes no real difference. And poisons, you could put a poison if you really, really wish. So hopefully that gives you those 3 options. As I've said, Spinners, biggest initial hit, New Moon just below it, Mechanical Acuity is quite a bit below it, but you get the best follow-up damage. So this is really good for kind of staying in the Zerg a bit longer to get more kills. As for the CP, I've gone through the CP and I've min-maxed it to include obviously just the best damage you can get. The green CP is what I would recommend. Eth0s has a very similar CP, but obviously it's personal preference, so do check his videos out. But this is what I would suggest. Do you know that Master at Arms, that's 72, although it's 23%, it actually is 23% now. They've actually fixed it finally. So that means that you'll get obviously more points if you put 72 there. You've got 1 spare to put in sort of erosion for more damage. So yeah. Over here, this has all been min-maxed. The resistance has been min-maxed to take into account the 1350 we get. We have 2 points there in the red tree, as you can see. I've just put them in light armor focus. They can go wherever you like, but if you put them in resistant, they give you no benefit, so don't put them there. But that is the CP. Obviously go back, rewind it, pause it, you get the idea. Now, like I do in all of my build videos, I go through and I give you the combo so you can put them off correctly and easily, okay? So you want to find a group of people, and I'm using NPCs on the PTS, which is why my Telva looks stupidly high. I'm not that rich, okay? But you find a group of people, and you want to obviously just mark one and get behind an object. So this works best when they're on a flag, if they're repairing a door. Those are kind of the best times to do it. In the open is not great. And then what you need to do is basically put your proxy det on and then move closer to them. And the idea is that when you get right on top of them, you then swap bar, salt ever, and spam sap essence like no tomorrow, okay? So I'm going to show you how to do that now in order, and it will be slowed down a bit to help you. So I'll do it at full speed, then I'll play it a second time slowed down so you can really see the buff order, okay? So I'm going to start with casting proxy det, potion, race against time, move closer, vampire toggle, cloak, swap bar, salt ever, and spam sap essence. And they're dead. I'm going to play it a second time now, but just slowed down so you can see the kind of buff rotation, and obviously practice it. It does take some time to perfect. I would recommend doing it on resources like this in the Imperial City. There's loads in a circle, just so you get a good idea of kind of how to time it, because that's the key thing with the bomber. If you want to see more from this kind of build and how it actually functions, do check out Eth0s' channel. He's got obviously the build guide itself. He's also got loads and loads of gameplay, which he's obviously just crazy on, and his mid-year mayhem, so he's probably going to have more coming up very, very soon. But before I wrap this video up here, I want to say a huge thank you to everybody who's obviously liking the videos, commenting, sharing. It really helps. We're getting close to 7,000, which is like absolutely crazy. 7,000 subscribers, it's just nuts. And more importantly, I want to say a huge thank you to the Patreons. Their continued support really helps make these videos viable. Like, the donating, it helps with the website, it helps with the equipment and stuff that I need. So really, really huge thank you to those guys there. But with that said, guys, this video is long enough as it is. So I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Take care and bye.